two of the most storied players that Hearthstone has to offer. Over 5 years of history, and these two have met quite a bit, but Kolento has typically gotten the better of Thijs, I believe, when I was looking at the history of these two side by side. It feels like Thijs has his work cut out for him, I feel like, given the history and just given the deck list in particular.
Yeah, I think in this particular week, deck list-wise, I can definitely agree with you. Thijs, as we see here, bringing his, I would argue, kind of signature Cyclone Mage here with the Questing Adventurers slotted in, which I personally thought was a pretty good idea to be bringing. At the very least, last week, when there are a whole lot of mages knocking about, and you can just kind of throw them down, and the answers are very often not there. This week, however, I think his list may have been a little bit too similar and too much targeted towards Mage to be very effective against Kolento.
Yeah, and because, you know, you take a look at this list, one Frost Nova, the one Banana Buffoon, you have to get something rolling versus Hunter, or they are absolutely going to run away with the game. As
the Hunter list that you can see here, somewhat standard, I would say. One Vicious Scalehide, as opposed to, and 2 Unleash the Beast, as opposed to the list that Bunny Hopper and Viper brought with 2 Scalehides, 1 Unleash the Beast, but more or less identical to what we've been seeing from most of the mid-range hunters. And I think that the thing that might be holding Kolento back, I'm not sure about how much he's played this deck, to be perfectly honest. I would say probably not quite as much as the Mage that he brought for the last 2 weeks. There's some weird stuff that you have to know about this particular matchup. For example, Bunny Hopper keeping Timberwolf and Unleash the Hounds in the mulligan against Mage, which I have to be honest, I thought was crazy when I saw it.
I don't even know what to say about the cameras right now.
Production, you are funny.
I hope that's intentional. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, I'm getting word. They're laughing. It was intentional. Goodness. It's an interesting point you brought up about Bunny Hopper keeping the Unleash, though. He did mention in his interview that the Timberwolf, he had a bigger question mark about. I think the Unleash is quite obvious if you've played the matchup really at all. And Kolento strikes me as somebody where if he practices a game like 10 or 15 times, that to him is like nothing.
Oh, no, I fully agree. I think Kolento definitely has the ability to figure these things out. It's just an interesting point to bring up, that this matchup is basically, it's not like the Beast mid-range hunters of yore, where you just had to curve out and kill your opponent.
Yeah.
There's combos you have to pull off.
The point I was kind of getting at was that I feel like if Kolento hasn't put in practice to the point of he feels confident in every situation, he's going to be like, I didn't practice that much. Like, he holds himself to a very high standard, and he absolutely has, at times, hit that level of mastery where he knows everything that he needs to know about the matchup.
I would also say, however, Kolento is one of the players who needs to practice the least, because he is one of, in my opinion, the most naturally gifted Hearthstone players. He plays much better when he does practice. I'm obviously not trying to deny that, but he...
Just strong critical thinking.
He's just so good at the game, man. He just gets it. It just clicks for him. That's why he's been one of the most dominant players at all times over Hearthstone's history.
And in my opinion, that's a practiced thing. Like, it doesn't have to be practiced in Hearthstone to be critical thinking and strong at it.
That's true.
But at some point, if you want to learn how to think critically very well, you have to practice it. There is no substitute for that. I'm of the opinion that I don't think anybody is, like, naturally gifted at things. I think that people have things that can incline them to be stronger at things. For instance, like with music and perfect pitch or euthanasia. I'm sorry, what's the word? Anesthesia? Anesthesia? No, what's the word? Synesthesia.
Synesthesia.
The one where you see colors.
Good save.
Oh my goodness. Forgive me. The one where you see colors when you hear sounds. That's the one I should have just said.
Far from the worst slip-up we've had on the cast.
True story. Hashtag Soddle. So looking at that, like I don't know what would give you the ability to just be good at Hearthstone.
Right.
Like, critical thinking is how you're good at Hearthstone. That's something you have to practice.
Okay. There's a good point to bring up. I am not trying to say that Kolento does not practice Hearthstone or that he has not worked to get in the position he's in. I do, however, just believe he is just more inclined to the game than other people are. I think, as you're saying, with natural talent for music or for whatever else you may be trying to be good at in life, I think some people have a natural knack for the game, and I think Kolento is one of those.
There's a natural knack for the board right now as well. Goodness.
He does indeed.
What to do?
To me, watching him do this, he clearly understands the matchup. Delay the 1-drops, get something on board, take advantage of it.
Yeah, you got to be careful when your opponent's on the coin, or sorry, when you're on the coin, that you don't give them an easy ping by playing it out on turn 1.
It's a rare look from Kolento.
Kind of smolder.
It's like a glasses off, stretch, rub the eye.
That means it's game time.
Yeah, this also could mean if it's second Timberwolf time that Thijs is in a lot of trouble. Oh boy. Wow. Yeah, he's gonna die quick.
How much damage is this? 4, 12, 15?
It's only 15.
Only.
The one thing he has to fear is Frost Nova turns. There is only a single copy in Thijs' deck, but you also want to account for the turns that Thijs is going to pop off with Mana Cyclone and try to make something happen. So, like, what draws from Mana Cyclone can change that landscape as well. Like, A, that requires a lot of cards from Thijs, and then B, he's got to get the right cards off of the Mana Cyclone. So I think Kolento has both the opportunity to push and at the same time opportunity to constrict decisions from Thijs as well. But you're playing the Timberwolf, I think. He is having some reserve about it, though.
Because he can combo it with the Unleash the Hound. Like, if this board somehow gets cleared, be it through, I don't know, randomly generating a shooting star or missiles or whatever, then having the combo of Timberwolf into Unleash the Hounds would be pretty critical.
I think Thijs is just going to die here.
So what are the plays? He cannot go Evocation Giant Frost Nova. He doesn't have enough mana.
Frost Nova, Snap Freeze, Evocation, Mana Cyclone.
Or it's Frost Nova Evocation Double Cyclone. No, yeah, this is better.
I want that Liat going.
Yep.
All right.
Let's see what we can get himself.
Breathing room, at least. Thijs has gotten some good stuff in the past matches. And some good stuff here. Oh my god! He just picked the 3 cards he wanted. Whoa!
Dude, these are insane.
That was like one of the best outcomes you could get.
Freeze, clear with the Cinderstorm.
He's got
Giant Conjurers calling next turn.
turn.
What? I beg thine pardon?
Kolento's got a good answer of his own, though. I mean, Scavenging Hyena, clear off the Cyclones. More threat pressure. Like, Thijs still needs help. There's a deadly shot with an Unleash the Hounds in Kolento's hand, and there's 2 Timberwolves in play.
They are both popping off this game. This is like the best of both decks here.
My gosh.
My hand is too full.
Even beautiful positioning from Kolento around Cone of Cold. The 2 Timberwolves on the right-hand side, which are very valuable, and the Hyena on the left-hand side. So he cannot kill the Timberwolves and freeze the Hyena. If he even wanted to go for the Cone of Cold this turn, which is pretty tempting.
Think about how important that Sorcerer's Apprentice could have been.
You're not wrong.
Oh
Sorcerer's Apprentice here would be mental.
This hand would have been so good.
So what does he do? How does Thijs just survive full stop here? So look, let's plan out these turns. If he goes...
I wonder.
If he goes Cone of Cold on the 3 left minions and pings one of the wolves, next turn he can go Giant, Conjurer's Calling, and a Ray of Frost to freeze the Hyena.
Okay.
Which I think looks like a pretty powerful couple of turns. It means he's not dying and he's getting a lot of powerful stuff in play.
Can that change? So you sort of freeze the Hyena in this spot and then Timberwolf? That does risk...
Giant Conjurer's Calling is just not good.
No, you can't do that. If you Giant Conjurer's Calling, you are often giving the game up.
Okay.
Kolento has the first measure of defense against this, though.
This takes a lot more damage than the other play I was looking at. It does obviously get a Giant in play, which can be very valuable for just double Conjurers next turn.
Exactly. He's got to think about how he wins the game, too.
Yeah.
And I think from Thijs' perspective, he's far enough behind, or he feels far enough behind, that taking a risk here is justified. That's Thijs' level of thinking. I mean, when you're staring at a deadly shot on your screen in Kolento's hand, obviously this doesn't look very good. Thijs can't look at Kolento's hand.
Right, but even then...
I think this play yields a big payoff if this succeeds.
Yes, it does. And even if a deadly shot is there, he has the second Giant to go for Giant Conjurer's Calling Ray of Frost next turn.
Yeah, my problem is that if deadly shot... Thijs is trying to force a trade at the very least, and I think when he gets deadly shotted here, he knows he's done.
he could just Cone of Cold and ping on this turn as well.
You can Conjurer's Calling the Hyena as well.
An interesting point. That's true, actually.
I don't know how you win the game if your giant gets checked that turn.
Conjurer's Calling, the Hyena, Cinderstorm. That's just so weak. You need to do something more powerful than that.
I think,
yeah.
you know, honestly,
this is it. This is the only play.
I think this was the thinking from Thijs as well, is that if the giant gets checked by board pressure, that he can Conjurer's Calling the Hyena in an emergency situation. It would be so large that you get to freeze it out for a turn and then follow up and maybe get the board back.
But the amount of damage that Kolento has this turn is pretty stunning. We can just see Unleash the Hound's Hyena. He can't then fit in the kill command as well.
I imagine that kill command is going to be aimed face.
Yes, yeah.
I wonder.
So the question for Kolento, I think, is just how do you get Thijs to 7?
Can he get any damage through to face on this turn?
Yeah, he can Unleash the Hound's Vicious Scalehide.
Yes.
Pushes 3, 4, 5 with the hero power. That sets Thijs to 6, and then you have Beast, Kill Command, hero power next turn. That puts Thijs on having to have healing, of which there is no Ziliax, there's no natural healing, and the only way he would then protect himself is with Counter Spell or with an Ice Barrier. You play around the Ice Barrier, and you can check the Counter Spell.
That's pretty much checkmate then. Aside from a Ziliax coming off of a Conjurer's Calling somehow.
Yeah,
not even sure.
It's not a 5-cost minion.
Yeah, exactly.
Quickly.
Okay. Let's slow down a little bit here.
Another Deadly Shot.
I do think that this was strictly weaker.
Because is he losing?
Did he miss the attacks?
With what?
His minions!
His Hyena was frozen.
But the Timberwolf and the dog were not! Thijs is still at 11! You can't do that!
What?
You cannot do that!
You're correct. What? He just missed 3 damage. Did he?
Do you see them attacking on the left side of the screen?
No, I don't, but I see Kolento's face. I know he doesn't give much reaction, but...
Look, that was a hard turn. But I think, A, he had a superior setup to this, and B, he just missed attacks. You cannot let that happen.
What to do?
That turn was a mess.
He might be
Thijs
done.
has an in into this game.
He needs to find 7 more damage off the back of this. 7.
Time runs out on me.
I mean, Kolento's still in a pretty good spot, right? He can still go for the Deadly Shot.
I'm playing a mirror image. Let him unleash. He already used 1. Both Timberwolves are gone.
Yeah, I agree. You can't play around everything.
That doesn't do anything.
Kolento had a lock on this game.
It can't even tracking for a second kill command for lethal.
He cannot, you're correct. Deadly Shot is at best a 50-50, unless he wants to, I don't know, Dire Frenzy and then Deadly Shot for a 1 out of 3. 2 out of 3, sorry.
Then he start missing hero powers.
Yeah.
This is bad news. I mean, this game was over.
It was over.
Oh boy.
Does he even survive to Zul'jin? Not with the way it's currently going.
With the way it's currently going, Kolento, I think, has the potential to end the game in 2 turns, even despite what's happened. He has to hope he does not die and that he can keep fighting back against Thijs, because if Thijs has 1 more big turn, 33%. Whoa! Oh my. Thijs cannot capitalize on damage just yet, though.
He can go double Conjurer's Calling on the Hyenas? Is that ever a consideration? Or does he have to draw through to Frost Nova? Or does he just taunt up, just go for
So
4 Grave Horrors?
let's look at the way that Thijs loses this game. I think it is exactly
What to do?
double kill
What
command
to
or
do.
failing to have enough taunts in play.
Okay.
He cannot deliver with his current hand enough damage to kill Kolento. If you look at his deck list, there's no way to fetch damage other than Mana Cyclone and Banana Buffoon. Banana Buffoon's not enough. Both Mana Cyclones are gone.
What to do? What to
He has 1 copy of Frost Nova in the deck, which he has not found, I believe, so far.
No,
he's
he
just
used the Frost Nova.
Oh, he's used the
He
Frost
used it
Nova
early
already.
to
Okay.
for the Snap Freeze.
Right.
Uh-oh.
That's the nightmare.
Time runs out on me.
Well, he's got another shot. If you use Research Project, you have 1 Ray of Frost in the deck. And that means Conjurer's Calling. Second taunt in play, but this might not be enough. He has to trade. And trading, I don't think, is enough.
Dire Frenzy, Kill Command,
Kolento wins.
lethal.
That is a massive punt recovery on Kolento's side.
Yeah. That game should not have been anywhere near as close as it ended up being.
That's a big angry hyena, though.
It's got to be said as well, props to Thijs. I think he handled that situation with the hyenas admirably. The one thing I was considering that he could maybe have done different was the first turn he played a giant. He could have gone Cone of Cold instead, but I think his line was still just better because if the second one gets hit with a deadly shot, he's in a pretty bad position. Whereas with his line, he gets a giant down first, so he could go for double Conjurer's Calling if it wasn't dealt with.
Yeah, I like his idea, which is you can take some of the pressure and then you try to answer back. If
Yep.
your risk with the giant pays off, you're in a fantastic spot. If your risk with the giant doesn't pay off, you at least have a backup plan. And so his backup plan obviously is, not a very strong chance to have happen. I mean, that game was pretty much over when the deadly shot came down. But if your opponent does not have the deadly shot in that instance, if Kolento does not have that clear, it means he's going to have to use spells or he's going to have to use minions to clear it off. And when that happens, that's when Thijs gets a payoff. Because I think he had accounted for in that instance, if my opponent clears a giant, it means they don't have minions. It means I can Conjurer's Calling the hyena and easily recover. He doesn't have 20 attack in play anymore. He's got 5 or 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
But either way, Kolento, very fortunate, I think, to get out of that spot because that was a major blunder that took place in game number 1. Either way, though, Kolento 1-0 lead over Thijs, and we got to go to a break. And when we come back, we're going to find out how they swap things up here in the specialist format to take advantage of what their opponents are doing. Stay tuned. We are amidst our match of the day here at European Grandmasters. I'm That's Admirable. I'm joined by Darroch Brown. Kolento gets by game number 1, and now they have moved on to their secondary decks. That's right, their secondary decks. This is specialist format. You bring 3 decks in the same class, and you have 2 decks that can swap up to 5 cards for your second and or third game in this one. We're taking a look at Thijs's right now, where he has substituted out the Questing Adventurers, pretty weak, Sandbinder, a little bit slow, Archmage, never happening, and a Snap Freeze. He's added in Shooting Star, Frostbolt, Ziliax, and 2 Rabble Bouncers.
I would say that these cards are not perfectly suited for the Hunter matchup, but they definitely serve a good purpose. It feels like it's primarily an anti-rogue deck here with the healing and the taunt from Ziliax and Rabble Bouncers, especially as a lot of rogues go very wide on board now due to the Spirit of the Shark and all of the lackeys. Hunter, however, as we saw in that game, can also go very wide on board, against which Shooting Star and Ziliax can be very strong.
Yeah, and Kolento's swapped out a Vicious Scalehide, a Marked Shot, a Tundra Rhino, and Unleash the Beast. He's added in 2 copies of Direwolf Alpha, a Deadly Shot, and a Baited Arrow. And honestly, I feel like this is pretty well thought out, where obviously second Deadly Shot, pretty straightforward. The Direwolf Alpha is actually a fairly tough minion for the current mage lists to clear off efficiently, and it turns all your 1-drops into additionally extra damage, but also the ability to fight against Sorcerer's Apprentice very easily. I mean, we've seen how key Timberwolf is in the matchup at times. I think Direwolf Alpha serves a great purpose. Then just Baited Arrow, a very efficient card versus a lot of the mid-game stuff for Mage.
I think what it comes down to with Direwolf is that against Mage, pretty much any minion that has an active effect that goes on turn after turn is really good against Mage because they have very little removal. Thijs does take in a Frostbolt, I guess, but that Direwolf Alpha could just stick around and attack turn after turn.
They've done it again.
They've done what?
Well, you remember game number 1 where they showed 2 images of Thijs? Now they're showing 2 images of Kolento.
I don't get what you're saying. Let's just move on. There's nothing going on here at all.
All right. Oh, you're right. I looked again. Nothing wrong at all.
Nothing has changed whatsoever. Haha.
They even have the same match record.
You ever seen Kolento and Thijs in the same room together?
Only several times, so there's a great possibility it's the same person.
Maybe he just moves really fast, so whenever you look away, he runs around behind you and changes his clothes and his hair.
And right now, is constantly moving so fast that it appears they're in both places at once.
Exactly.
Like when you wave your finger in front of you really fast and it looks like you have like a blurry finger that's kind of translucent.
That's exactly it.
But
human eye
so
can only
fast.
see 30 frames per second.
Exactly.
Or more likely, they just look a little bit similar, I guess. Not even really that similar.
Yeah, I honestly don't see it at all. Like, they have very distinct characteristics in their facial expression. One of them's wearing glasses, the other one's not. Their hair color's different. They're on different teams with different logos.
One of them's going to win this game. One of them is not. Which is which at the moment? That's admirable.
I mean, I think that Hunter is favored in this. I once didn't think that Hunter was favored. And honestly, it was prior to the Hatchets and the Hyenas being a mainstay of the deck.
Right, it was when Ball Control and Orange brought it and did pretty badly against the mages.
Yeah, it just didn't have the pressure.
Yeah.
This is often, I think, a super underrated play in Hunter.
Hyena on 2.
Just play it.
Yeah.
Against decks that are light on removal, that have pretty weak minions that they're afraid of playing into Hyena for fear of you using Spring Paws and buffing them. This looks so threatening from Thijs. Like, there's honestly a chance he tries to go into a ping-ping turn,
What to do?
but he knows that
What
Dire
to
Frenzy
do.
with coin is one of the main reasons Kolento would do this.
That's a fantastic point you bring up. And even though Kolento doesn't have it, Thijs is still very much afraid of that. So I imagine he counteracts that by just going for the Banana Buffoon instead of ping-ping. Wow. Or stopping it from being able to sacrifice Spring Paws into anything, because he just plays a big old Khadgar.
And look, board presence of his own. The one counterplay that Kolento has to this is exactly Unleash Timberwolf. He's got the first, or the second part of that.
Ooh. Man, Tyson these mana cycles insane.
And he can't get the Unleash Timberwolf this turn.
Yeah.
And now I think Kolento is in major trouble.
I think he's okay for the moment. He's not taking too much damage. Conjurer's Calling is not too scary because Thijs has filled up so much of his board space with 0/2s.
Okay, counterpoint. Thijs is about to kill all of his minions the rest of the game and not take any damage.
A strong counterpoint. But like, this is what Hunter does, right? It doesn't have to curve out as the old Hunters kind of had to. He can just draw some cards here, Master School, tracking, look for the good stuff to set up for a stronger play in the next couple of turns to swing things back.
I would say that in a more traditional matchup, that is definitely the case. I think against Mage, if Mage is able to take the board against you, it's like, this deck is literally just like minions and things.
I don't agree, because it has Unleash the Hounds. That's exactly what he's looking for. He has the ability to get back in this game. I think it's obviously it's better if Mage doesn't seize board control against you.
I mean, if he draws Unleash the Hounds, he's definitely got a fighting chance here.
100%.
I think without Unleash the Hounds, he's just having to spend too much mana to bring the board back to even.
Yeah, and Thijs can now make 4 2-drops off of this Mana Cyclone if he wanted to. He might slow it down and go for the Banana Buffoon first to get 4 3-drops.
Yeah, I think I like Banana Buffoon.
Okay. It allows you to value trade the Hyena as well.
I think I'm interested in actually trading the Hyena straight up and either buffing the 3 cost so it stays alive through Hatchet or buffing Khadgar so Khadgar sticks around. Or just value trade a Khadgar.
I think I like this to play around the Mark Shot, because if Kolento has Mark Shot, he really wants to kill the Khadgar, so let's damage it as much as possible anyway.
Now it's just a very inefficient kill.
Exactly.
That's good as well.
Play.
But this is what I really mean. Without Unleash the Hounds, Kolento is, I think, pretty dead in the water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This play working out beautifully for Thijs. Kolento really is just forced into this. Deadly Shot, I guess, has the highest chance of being good.
Mirror Image just bought so much time.
It really did. And
You can see he's pained about attacking too. He's thinking about drawing Unleash the Hounds.
I mean, he's thinking about board space as well for Conjurer's Calling. At this point, it doesn't matter. Thijs can get a dominating board lead whether you kill it or not, and I think that's why he's attacking him. He's got to start running through, because if he gets Spring Pour, he wants to be able to push through very quickly. Thijs has got to be looking at Banana Buffoon, Conjurer's Calling too. Oh, yes. Reasonable. I'm pretty sure it's just a 3-mana 3/4, no ongoing effect, just a battle cry.
Yeah.
Despite the fact I've never seen that card actually played once.
Job's done.
Wow. That's kind of weird. I guess it
Protects it from the hatchet.
yeah, it just doesn't die to the hatchet anymore.
Yeah. Ah, there we
Yeah,
go.
like you said, just a
Recurring
3-mana 3/4 doesn't do anything.
The speed at which the mouse moves onto the screen to highlight cards is just objectively funny. Kolento really just having to fight back the old-fashioned way, making minion trades, not going for anything too absurd with Timberwolves and Unleashes. He is keeping the combo intact for when he does draw Spring Pour or Unleash the Hounds, but he's going to have to do it very quickly.
Yeah, Thijs doing some thinking about.
He's thinking Hounds.
He's thinking of Hounds. I think he's thinking of double Conjurer's Calling. I think he's thinking of Arcane Intellect. Like, I think the first outcome here perhaps changes the way that you play this turn. Like, if you get 2 ideal outcomes here, maybe you Arcane Intellect instead. What are the odds? That's got to be very low odds to just get the same minion you Conjurer's Calling away. Unless, of course, it's like a Mountain Giant.
Yeah. I reckon it is pretty low. There's a lot of 2-drops. Or a lot of 3-drops even, sorry. Even though it is literally always Spirit of the Dragon or the face of Slacky, and the odds are tilted towards it, I will not hear anything to the contrary. Man, these Unleash the Hounds are... Oh, sorry, these Unleash the Beasts are doing a huge amount of work for Kolento.
Pretty cool play here from Kolento, too, to actually attack the 2/3 instead, so that Thijs cannot hero power.
Yeah. Yeah, that is smart.
It's very keen.
What to do? What to
Think I'm looking at a Mana Cyclone turn? Oh, good job, Conjurer's Calling. Nice positioning.
That is just taunting him. Or rather, it's not taunting him, unfortunately, so he's going to take a lot of damage.
Double Ray. And Mana Cyclone. Ah,
Yep.
Kill the minion. This also plays around the counterplay of Unleash a little bit more. Oh, good job, Mana Cyclone. Nice timing.
I mean, yet again, not bad cards, right? Mirror Image for the Giant is pretty sick. Even just going double Research Project in a single turn, it could be the swing that he needs to pull this back.
Yeah, the thing with Research Project is, you know, the double-sided effect is obviously not a fun thing, but if Kolento's hand is pretty full,
Right.
you really cut the symmetrical effect of Research Project.
I mean, if it becomes 2-mana draw 2 and even mill your opponent some cards, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think there's a chance you mill something that's key, but more often than not, it's just your opponent already has a full hand.
Right.
They're effectively not drawing cards.
Exactly.
I wonder.
And speaking of not drawing cards, Spring Pour not being picked up for Kolento is starting to become a little bit of a worry. He cannot fight back against this board really at all with this hand.
Yeah.
No rushes whatsoever.
And Kolento can also assume that Thijs has moved into his secondary deck, which means if you kill that Ursatron and Thijs doesn't have Ziliax, he draws Ziliax. If you don't kill the Ursatron and he has Ziliax, you're going to die real quick.
Either outcome is not great.
Oh boy.
As Thijs is just saying, brilliant, free cards. So the research projects effectively cost 1 mana if you're casting Mountain Giant on the same turn, given that it gives you a reduction in increasing your hand size. 1 mana, draw 2 cards. Doesn't that sound too powerful?
Definitely no facetious hint at all in your tone. You can't be referring to Christology in the upcoming event in which that card's getting buffed to 1 mana.
I can't even be facetious about it. That card is absurd. That is actually just going to break Paladin.
What to do?
And I, for one, am actually quite excited. As Thijs here, like we said, getting the full value, for himself at least, out of these research projects.
I think it's funny that he can get a ping off this as well. Or he can play Mirror Image first to set up the positioning for the Flame Tongue. If he wants to have the Giant sitting outside of both the taunts. So that way when both the taunts are killed, the Mountain Giant moves next to the Flame Tongue. Oh, and he gets to take away the random chance of a spell here too.
That's true. Boop. Could have burnt another card. Oh no, wait, he couldn't because he had to cast the
He's got so much going on.
Project first.
Like, it's going to take so much time for Kolento to get back into this spot.
Yeah. I think like a very small bit of mispositioning there for Thijs.
Unleash found.
Either way,
okay.
This is the card that Kolento needs to have any hint of a chance. He's finally found it.
He can actually fight back this turn.
He can go Timberwolf, trade, deadly shot, and clear the board.
Big turn.
Exactly what he's going to do. He's won board control. And Thijs' hand is actually not looking that threatening. Kind of.
Yeah, there's a lot more where that came from, I think, is the long story short.
Right.
And this is Kolento's entry back into the game. He's at 9 health. And he just expended one of his most important resources and tracked over 2 deadly shots. By the way, there's 5 cards left in his deck.
Has he tracked over Zul'jin as well?
I believe tracking over Zul'jin happened early. Or unless that was the previous game.
I think that might have been last game, yeah.
It happened so fast last game.
Yeah. And a Dire Frenzy was burned off of the research project, I believe, as well.
Yeah, so the research project's having a strange alternate effect.
It's true.
It's
kind of
very
fatigue plan.
It's so rare that that's ever relevant.
Yeah. And I think even here, it's unlikely that it's that relevant, because I think fatigue, one player will have won or lost by the time Kolento gets through to fatigue. But it's possible. Maybe it does matter.
Time runs out. I wonder.
He's got a lot of life. Yeah, just big thing.
Speaking of big thing, however, Kolento can make a very big thing on this turn with his huge scavenging hyena that he can throw down here. Like, he's got to just go off, right? He could look at
I think that there is
freezing trap.
I think there is a lot of merit to using freezing trap. I think there's a lot of merit to using Direwolves and Timberwolf to simply push. Like, there's a lot going on this turn.
I think the freezing trap, given that Kolento has 100% knowledge that Ziliax is in hand, is not a play on this turn.
I agree with that.
Off of the Ursatron, of course.
You pay heed to win. That's going to be important.
Yeah. I think this looks much more juicy. Whoa.
So his intent is to use the center position for Spring Paw.
Yes,
to get most damage to face as well as most board presence.
Man, this is like a beast buffing machine. You just put in Lynxes and out come big hyenas.
The Luna turn.
Luna, Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then I guess Frost Nova.
Yeah, you draw a card.
Yeah, go off. Just
with a Sorcerer's Apprentice in play.
But does he just want to go Giant Frost Nova? It's potentially just lethal.
Oh, that's an excellent point.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Oh boy, I forgot those were there. So
Thijs is just too afraid of the deadly shots to go for Giant Frost Nova.
I think Thijs' thinking this turn was he can dig very deep into the deck, and so what that means... Oh my gosh, Research Project can be like surprised.
It could just be damage.
Too. Yeah.
Fatigue damage, that could just kill him.
I think Thijs' intent here was to find Rabble Bouncers, plural S, and play them with the Frost Nova. Because he knows that the other Sorcerer's Apprentice is also in the bottom of this deck. So here he can play the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and he gets to play Research Project for free, or he can Research Project for free, dig for the other Rabble Bouncer, and try to do it that way.
We can just go Frost Nova Rabble Bouncer here, right?
Yeah.
Arena's full. Beat.
However, Kolento still can clear this stuff off. I mean, he has Lynxes in hand. And the center position on the Direwolf Alpha, that matters. I wonder if Thijs actually should be Rhea Frosting one of these Direwolf Alphas.
Out of cards.
The Unleash the Hounds comes into hand, but obviously only one board space.
And there's only one card left in the deck for Kolento.
I've got to be honest, with all the trackings and burnings, I'm not sure what that final card is in his deck. So each Springport that he plays has 4 attack, I believe.
If it's center position,
Yes.
it will have 4 attack. +2 from the Direwolves, +1 from the Timberwolf.
So we can just go bam, bam, trade in both of them into the Rabble Bouncer. This is so close. Is Thijs able to freeze enough on the following turn? Like, if this Apprentice doesn't die, his Luna could be absolutely absurd. He could draw the rest of his deck.
If the Sorcerer's Apprentice doesn't die, I fear for Kolento.
Can it die?
No,
He can't kill it off.
he doesn't have the board space.
Nope. Just throwing down the trap, trying to mess with Thijs' head here. Stopping damage coming to face as well, I
I think
suppose.
timing of this is very important.
Yeah. This game is absolutely just on the razor's edge at the moment. He's thinking, what secrets could it be? If it's explosive, do I want to attack at all? Do I want to attack a minion? What if it's Snake Trap?
If it's Snake Trap, you don't get provided information.
What to do.
Right.
The full board.
What to do.
As with Rat Trap as well, if he plays 3 cards, but
The play is
Doesn't-
Luna in Elemental.
yes,
I know that.
I agree.
Behold the tools of creation.
It's a little bit of damage, or removal, of course.
He doesn't know what to Frostbolt.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Does now.
He's hoping it's not
Behold
explosive
the
trap
tools
quite
of
badly.
Ooh.
That's big. He's running out of cards himself, though. He's only got 2 cards left in the deck.
Behold the tools of creation.
Frostnova! Research Project!
Is Research Project just lethal?
1, 2, 3. Yes! Research Project was lethal!
Of creation.
Research Project was lethal!
Research Project was just lethal.
He would have taken 1 damage in fatigue, 2 damage in fatigue. No, it wasn't lethal because he draws the first card, draws the first damage for fatigue.
So it was
then he
only
draws
3
return.
damage.
It was only
It was
3
only 3
damage.
damage.
It was only lethal if the Sorcerer's Apprentice connected in that spot. So the Frostnova was the pick. Oh,
I'm out of cards.
Dire
And it's
Frenzy's the last card.
the last card. He's not taking fatigue damage.
Unleash the Hound's Dire Frenzy?
That's what I'm looking at. Could even go Unleash the Hound's Dire Frenzy Master's Call, but
You don't have the mana to clear off the Rabble Bouncer.
Yeah.
You need to clear off damage. You're at 6. So Lynx, Dire Frenzy, Master's Call, play another Lynx. That's not enough. I think Kolento's just dead. He's just dead.
Trade. He takes 1 fatigue.
There's just 5 damage on board he can't contest. If he Dire Frenzies and he Master's Call, he's out of mana.
No, because it's a 3 attack Lynx, right? So he plays the Lynx. He can kill off the Apprentice, right? Exactly.
Moves quickly.
So he takes the hit of
He
fatigue.
doesn't have board space though. He can't play the Lynx first.
So 4 damage into this.
He can't efficiently kill enough. He's just dead. The board space is what's killing him here.
Tie game.
Oh my goodness.
What a weird... A research project was relevant.
Very relevant.
Mill Mage. He's just milling the cards away. What?
He could have played up to 3 research projects that game.
Why is Hearthstone? Why is?
I cannot answer that question. That's one for the philosophers.
How are Thijs?
What am Kolento?
That is a strange looking game. That is not how you anticipate those panning out. Where Kolento was on the defense against a deck that has like 5 early minions. And then also that Thijs pressured Kolento by running his Beast Hunter deck with Dire Frenzies out of cards.
It was a weird game.
That's a strange one right there.
And one I think that at the end, especially on Thijs' side, a lot of players would have messed up. Us included. We thought that was lethal.
If you ask me, the game was entertaining, and I think it's impossible to not have a weird technical mistake accounting for random outcomes in that one. That's Mana Cyclone Mage in a nutshell. It's extremely difficult to pilot in a lot of ways to get it done. Game 3 is coming up. Quick break. Kolento versus Thijs. Our match of the day is coming to a conclusion after this. It's Hearthstone Grandmasters here for Europe, and we're in our match of the day, and we are headed into our final game of that match of the day, which means we'll have 3 matches afterwards. But for this one, Kolento versus Thijs, there has been a lot of back and forth in these games. Game 1, Kolento able to get by despite the blunder. And then in game number 2, just probably one of the wackiest games of Mage that I've seen in quite some time. And they all seem to belong to Thijs when I think about them now.
Yeah, they do. That's an interesting point, actually. I think it shows a maturity with the way he's playing, because a way that a lot of players would have played that is they go for the more traditional Mage plan of just giant into Conjurer's Calling. And he probably would have lost because it would have been too slow, whereas his aggressive domination of the board with Khadgar into Mirror Image on turn 3 just gave him a, right from the get-go, incredibly dominant board position.
Okay, now...
You're just taking the mickey at this point.
Yeah.
Production.
Enough is enough. I'm just kidding. Wow. This is a good look opening hand for Thijs.
Yep, wow is correct.
Not an ideal first draw for Kolento. You see the new game plan. Start hitting.
I mean, with three weapon charges, it's not likely that you're going to be...
I'm thinking of
You're
mirror
not
image.
likely to be using them all on minions over the course of the game.
It's true. I'm thinking of mirror images specifically in that spot, though.
And obviously with 2 of them in the deck, if he finds another, he wants to be churning through them nice and quick. Again! 2 deadly shots in one series.
Yeah. And so now
flies.
with Unleash Scavenging Hyena, I imagine the plan for Kolento is keep board parity, and then chip away at Thijs. When he goes for a play, swing it back. You have Unleash the Beast Deadly Shot, and then you could pretty much keep board containment while you're chipping away life total and moving his Zul'jin. I think that's actually a game plan he could formulate right now.
I think that's very, very valid. His hand at the moment says one of 2 things. It's either you get very lucky with the Hyena and they don't have any way to remove it or stall out the game, or like you said, we're leading into Unleash the Beast, stall things out, Deadly Shot, stall things out, Zul'jin. Wow, this hand is shaping up real nicely.
Yeah, this is now, we're going down the route to where Thijs probably needs the Mountain Giant Conjurer's Calling kind of turns.
Yes, that would be very strong for him now.
So unusual how like one little thing like that changes the entire landscape of the game.
I guess this hand is actually just kind of lacking stuff. Like, if Kolento was aggressively developing onto the board, this hand would be fantastic for Thijs. But because Kolento isn't doing anything, it kind of makes Thijs' hand an awful lot better. Or a lot worse, sorry.
There's an opportunity now.
Does he seize it?
Well, the problem is, I think, is there's just so many cards.
He's just got too much stuff, exactly. Each of these Ray of Frost having twin spell means they effectively add 2 cards to your hand for one card.
So let's just say, for instance, you went Sorcerer's Apprentice, Ray of Frost, Ray of Frost. Oh yeah, you don't have any space for this.
Space.
Yeah. And
so how does he spend cards, right? Because he doesn't want to do nothing forever.
I'm looking at Shooting Star, Frostbolt, just get stuff off the board and figure out a way to spend. I don't know.
Those cards have to be too good to just throw out, right?
You can get the Mana Cyclone turn at basically any point that you want in Thijs' position. It's very cheap to expend. So I think that just simply expending a Ray of Frost here, totally reasonable.
I agree.
You got to do something this turn. You don't want to give up Coin. Coin is like easily one of the best Mage cards right now.
Yes, that is true.
Oh,
very nice pickup for Kolento. This is definitely starting to shape up a lot more nicely, because it's not even like he has to pigeonhole himself into just going for the Zul'jin plan. He can just go wide on the board and go for the Deadly Shot if Thijs develops, Unleash the Hound if he goes wide.
Yeah, so
Just looking good for Kolento.
I'm looking at the difference between developing and hero powering. Because Kolento wants to use Unleash the Beast next turn, I imagine.
Okay,
Kind of regardless of what ends up happening to board.
I think that's true.
You just got to spend that mana. And so that means if you're rolling into a Zul'jin turn early, you need to have hand space. Right now you're going to have a twin spell with Unleash the Beast, and you're going to Master's Call again.
Yep.
So I think that starting to spend from hand has a lot more merit than Hero Powers at the moment.
So how does he do that? Does he just play the Direwolf?
Your opponent just double Ray of Frost is Scavenging Kind by itself. I think every single minion you play threatens Dire Frenzy.
I moves quickly.
Okay, you convinced me.
Now that being said, you can also just go for, I think, for like Shimmerfly and the Spring Paw, because if Thijs has to use Ray of Frost to kill stuff, you know, Direwolf Alpha I think is a pretty prime target for that.
And talking of cards that Kolento was looking, or sorry, that Thijs was looking for to turn this one around, I'm doing it myself now. Mountain Giant is absolutely that.
What's the prime turn for it though?
That's the question. Could be just right now. If you're coming into an Unleash the Beast turn, this stacks up pretty nicely against an Unleash the Beast. So it disrupts Kolento's turn quite drastically.
When I look for future turns, I just don't see him. It's going to take you so long, and everything you play is going to die.
Yeah.
So I think this is just the play. Just play your big stuff because it's big.
So how much mana are we looking at this turn? Direwolf, Lynx, attack with the weapon, Deadly Shot is a full clear. Which is very important. There might be better ways to do it with Unleash the Hounds or Kill Command now, but I don't think so.
I think you're pretty interested in spending life total here. It's very apparent that that is not the critical resource.
Whoa.
Well, wow. Probably a little bit better than using your life total.
Yeah, you save the Lynx as well. That's got to be better.
I'm actually, you know, I'm not specifically convinced of that. You save the Lynx, who is the kicker to me.
Yeah. I think saving your health total is very relevant. It stops the mage from being able to go Giant Frost Nova and then kill you with a surprise lead.
Yeah, just like from Mana Cyclone generation.
Yeah.
Pyroblast isn't exactly it's not common.
Or just burn
it's
down.
not rare.
Right? It's mage, right? Like
Yeah.
it has a lot of burn spells.
Cyclone or Giant.
Oh man, Thijs is so sad about seeing that board clear. He has to hope he can hit a Giant there, but another Cyclone is a nightmare. I mean, okay, it's fine. He can still make a lot of spells, but he really, really wanted to hit that Mountain Giant.
Yeah, I'm looking at this turn, and honestly, the 2/4 going to get run over by the Unleash the Beast or by the Mark Shot is pretty inconvenient for Thijs, because I imagine he's eyeing a Conjurer's Calling onto the Sandbinder. Kolento obviously knows this. So his ideal turn was the Sandbinder living and then rolling into Mana Cyclone, make the board wide, get a bunch of stuff, and force Kolento to spend those valuable resources trying to build.
Pick up the Timberwolf as well is pretty important here for Kolento, because as soon as Thijs picks up a Mirror Image and goes for some kind of a Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mirror Image, Sea Giant turn, he's got the pretty perfect answer of Unleash Timberwolf.
How do the turns just keep getting harder?
Like,
You would think drawing good cards would make them easier.
just going Ziliax isn't even that good, because you want to go Ziliax and Conjurer's Calling, I think, on the same turn is a pretty powerful swing.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Double Ray of Frost Shooting Star.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I like this more than the Ziliax.
Spell's coming, goes to 8 cards in hand, then you can play Mana Cyclone. Well,
That's not bad.
so that would be 4 spells and then 5 spells. So he would go to 10 cards in hand here.
He could then just freeze. Oh no, wait, he'd have to double freeze one of his own minions,
He
right?
could play a Conjurer's Calling.
Runs out on
That's
me.
true. Well, that would also have to be played 2 copies of, right? Because it's twin spell. But he can play pretty much anything he gets off of it here, as those are some pretty good spells.
One of them is not twin spelled.
Oh, okay. Yes, you're correct. You're correct.
It's just like stuff. Like, it's just so much stuff that you're like, I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
And it's bad enough stuff that you don't really want to kill it all. But I think when you're moving towards a Zul'jin turn, you're quite happy just clearing stuff off. Tracking, I think, is pretty unlikely to get played this game. Whoa! I I don't know what he's looking for.
I mean, these are all pretty good, right? Especially to be cast off with the Zul'jin.
I think Dire Frenzy is critical at this point. Like, I think you actually have to take Dire Frenzy here.
Okay. I think it's probably the best option.
There is a second copy in the deck.
He already has a Master's Call in the spell pool for when Zul'jin is played. He probably doesn't want 2 Unleashes to be played off of Zul'jin because he wants to keep room for the Unleash the Hounds.
And you really want Dire Frenzy played off Zul'jin.
Yes. Wow. This turn is so different to how I would have played it. Guess he wanted to spend the mana on this turn? What is Kolento's
He's
thinking
going for a
behind the
kill him
Master's
game
Call?
plan. He's just going to try to kill him.
He doesn't have Tundra Rhino left in the deck now with his secondary deck that he switched over to. Doesn't have Scalehide. But I guess Tundra Rhino is the important one with him trying to just go for a kill and burst
What
lethal
to
plan.
do? What to do?
I mean, Zul'jin's going to give you a lot of board.
The Ziliax Conjurer's Calling, which I think Thijs is moving forwards towards here, I think is very, very nice. This is why I like saving it on the last turn. Being able to make 2 5-drops here can be huge. And that's pretty huge.
You can hero power your own Gurubashi things.
The Gurubashi's big. The dragon guy, whatever his name is just a 3/5 for 5 mana.
Classic arena combo there. Mage and Gurubashi Berserker, name a more iconic duo.
Well, yeah, pinging your own Gurubashi there is pretty... It's not bad. It's just turning your hero power into 3 damage rather than 1. And hurting your own. And again, more spells being played here for Kolento turn after turn. Just setting up for that Zul'jin.
I have a big question mark about not using that Dire Frenzy.
Yeah. I'm unconvinced as well. I think I like the Dire Frenzy there, but even so for Thijs, this turn is equally, if not more, difficult. The amount of decisions he has to go through here while playing around Unleash and Zul'jin and everything else that could happen on this turn is very, very difficult.
I think with a pair of Frost Novas, a Ray of Frost, and a Snap Freeze,
You just go as big as
I
possible.
think you just try to find the way to kill him.
I like this.
It is going to be so hard for Kolento to fight back against this.
It goes down to 4.
And it's in a turn where Kolento wants to play Zul'jin, and I think Zul'jin, it looks a lot worse here.
I like the look of this an awful lot.
Time runs out on me.
Something about freezing versus trading here. Being unable to kill off the Leok is actually quite bad, because the Leok with the Unleash the Hounds is very scary.
There's only 5 minion spots, though. And
That's
if
true.
Unleash happens before in the Zul'jin pool,
Good
that means
point.
they don't get the 5/5s from Twin Spell.
Yep.
There's just too much pressure, I think, coming down. And it's too efficient of pressure from Thijs' side. It's extremely health-efficient pressure.
Zul'jin's a hell of a card, though. It could pull you back from the most dire of circumstances.
Something's got to go awfully good here. Yeah, if he's going to play Zul'jin, I think you do this first because you want less Unleash the Hounds.
You are correct. Because even if he gets 4 beasts here, he can still go for the Unleash the Beast Wyverns as well.
First one cast, good.
nice.
You want to see the second one of those before the Unleash. Deadly Shot, good target.
That's fine.
Ah! And the Deadly Shot happens first, so you get the other Wyvern.
It's working out gorgeously for Kolento.
I wonder what that tracking burned.
Destroying through his entire deck.
No beasts left in the deck. So I'm curious. I don't think you can actually see what the tracking burned. Maybe you can over the Zul'jin. But I'm thinking if that second Dire Frenzy's gone, there is actual time to worry.
Oh, how does Thijs ever clear this though, right? Like with no Conjurer's Callings left available at the moment, it's looking rough.
I mean, Azari's still alive. He's got Arcane Intellect. He's got Book of Specters.
Trading off to play around the Rabble Bouncer as well has an immediate reward there for Kolento. He still did lose a lot of damage to face though.
I think Thijs is looking good.
Really?
Yeah. He's got a lot of time.
Interesting.
I think it's going to be tough.
I guess Kolento's hand is just not actually that strong.
What to do? What to do?
I think that it's going to be still tough for Thijs. If he hits a Conjurer's Calling from this Arcane Intellect, can he hit a Conjurer's Calling?
I'm trying to think if one of the ones he cast was randomly generated.
I'll tell you what else he can do. He can play a Mountain Giant and a Sorcerer's Apprentice and freeze the board.
How does he want to go about this? Because freezing, he kind of wants to save until the last possible opportunity. He does have 2 of them, however. But I'm just wondering if he goes like Mountain Giant Rabble Bouncer on this turn with a couple of trades.
So the thinking for me is that he knows that Kolento has Unleash the Beast in hand.
It's true.
He can be rest assured that the Dire Wolves and Spring Paws are in hand. Obviously, you've seen the Master's Calls. So how do you best fend off against that? So I'm thinking Sorcerer's Apprentice freeze here, wipe out the 6 attacks.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe you don't even have to wipe out the 6 attacks. You can do that later.
It depends how much aggressive potential he thinks he has, because saving the Ray of Frost for more freezes rather than more removal is very tempting.
Second kill command picked up.
Oh. It's a lot of damage though for Kolento. This he doesn't have any more. He doesn't have any more Unleash the Hounds left in his deck because he passed over one with tracking and he's already played the other. So his burst damage without Tundra Rhino, which is removed from the deck in his secondary, is not actually that high. He has to do something with the board first.
Spring Paws represent 3 attack each.
So, I mean, many ways to clear off the board here.
He's got the board restricted again.
Yep. I think it's looking good for Kolento. I think he just sees his board.
This is very much like the Kolento 101 too. It's like, you just kill all their stuff. How are they going to kill you?
Yeah.
You gotta be interested in killing Ozari here.
Oh,
and so the question is
100%.
Lynx and Hatchet versus Marked Shot.
Yeah.
The Marked Shot is more damage efficiency for next turn, and I don't think he knows exactly what spell he wants. And now things for Thijs look really rough.
They look terrible, and I think this was a somewhat expected outcome after the last turn from Kolento. No matter what Thijs did on the last turn.
Round 2. The expression from Thijs is like, oh, well, I don't know about this one.
Are we research project gamers again?
That might just be his best chance.
Oh, it's so bad though. He doesn't even know that the he doesn't even know that the Dire Frenzy was passed over as well.
Which I'm gonna guess he assumes is not, unless that's his only win condition.
He's just running through his head what is actually left in his deck. He has no Antonidas in his secondary. Questing Adventurers are taken out. It's just light on threats now. He's going to struggle to kill Kolento.
Time runs out on me. Arena's full. Beat him.
Job done.
That was not a good turn.
Yeah, and Thijs here, I think, is going to be very much wishing that he had cast the Ray of Frost on the Wyvern a couple of turns ago to kill it off when he had the opportunity. Obviously, unless he wants to go Frost Nova and then Ray of Frost it on one of the coming turns, which just wastes his mana.
He's just killing everything Thijs plays. Like, he's actually just running Thijs out of threats. And again, this is so much of historically how I've seen Kolento play, is his major strength is once he gets to a position where he can wipe out all opposing threats,
he just solidifies the game very well.
Yeah, it's like I watch it and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to interrupt my thought.
This is an okay well moment as well. The Luna being picked up is important. And the Mirror Images is a good card to pick up afterwards. As is that.
Behold the tools of
As is that, okay.
I don't think he has enough threat potential.
Can Kolento kill enough stuff here, though? He obviously can if he wants to. Kill Command, Mark Shot, kills off all the relevant minions.
The hero power hits minions. Just Mark Shot,
yeah.
Then hero power.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Thijs just, his deck is, in this situation, not greedy enough.
He just actually needed one more big threat.
Yeah.
I mean, Kolento even had that checked. He had 2 kill commands.
I wonder.
I think as soon as that Zul'jin came down, Thijs was just pretty much out of this game. Even now with a deadly shot, for if anything good does happen for Thijs.
He's just gonna keep killing everything.
Yep. Yes, he is. Would you like another Master's Call, Collins?
Nah, just keep killing stuff. There's no beasts left in deck.
Does Explosive Trap do anything? I guess you just take the Wing Blast, right? Like, it's just more removal.
Keep killing stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
That is actually the game. He's just turned into Fatigue Hunter.
Unless he burned over the other Dire Frenzy with his tracking.
I mean, Thijs is neck and neck with him.
Even then,
Yeah.
he's winning by miles. Yeah.
Damage favor is heavily in Kolento's favor.
100%. Okay. Nope.
So
What
interesting to
do?
watch. It's like nothing
What
flashy
to
really
do?
happened this game. Just blew up all his stuff.
Pretty much. I think like the only one real obvious mistake was the Master's Call, which has just panned out horrendously. And I don't really know what he was looking for, to be honest, with the pick of Master's Call over Dire Frenzy.
Yeah, I would say that was.
It was just a mistake, right? Like,
I think so.
What could possibly have panned out that differently that summoning 3 more beasts from the deck when you already have Zul'jin casting your second copy of Master's Call? I think other than that, like, Kolento's just been, you know, he's just been playing good, just killing everything he can.
He understood the position.
Yep. Yep.
He had planned this from turn 1. Thin the deck of all the beasts. Perfect timing. And I imagine Thijs is about to exit in the most extreme of fashions possible.
Yeah, Book of Spectres. I think he's going to know what the cards are left in his deck, and he's going to know this does not work.
I'm out of cards.
Indeed you are.
Full.
Yep.
Well,
Kolento has completely run Thijs out of resources. It takes it 2-1 in our match of the day, and continues a long competitive history of Kolento getting the better of Thijs.
Absolutely. That was a close series. That second game there for Thijs was kind of just a masterclass. Kolento really had no ins into that game after the Khadgar into Mirror Image came down right at the start and dominated board control right from the get-go. But that second game, he just killed everything that Thijs made. As soon as he killed off that one turn with Mountain Giant Conjurers calling, which I think from Thijs was still correct, that was the turn where it was the lowest possibility that Kolento could kill it off. But with the, what was it, Deadly Shot off of the Shimmerfly, and then also the Wing Blast as well being found. It was just too much for Thijs to be able to beat as it is. Hunter really just being a big pile of removal most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, once we reach the Zul'jin state, he could just kill everything that Thijs played. It sounds like Kolento is here for an interview. Kolento, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello.
How's it going, my friend? This has been a long history kind of encapsulated into this match where it seems like you just keep getting the better of Thijs. Do you know how many times that y'all have played and what your record is against him?
Not sure. I think at least 4 times.
And do you know if you what the record is between the two of you?
Not following. I remember I won against him over when the first time I went to the Worlds. We fought for the spot in the championship. Not quite sure where else.
So talk to me a bit about these games. You had some pretty shaky spots in here. I'm going to point specifically to game 1 where you ended up missing some attacks with a Timberwolf and with an Unleash the Hounds token. What was going through your head on that turn, and what were all the things that you were thinking about, if you recall the situation?
I got messed up a little bit after I got the shot randomly. It opened a lot of other lines, and I didn't have time to think about everything, so I missed damage. It sucked because I could set up 2 turns afterwards. Also, I might have been able to set up 2 turns without clearing the Giants, since Thijs didn't run Ziliax. But I'm not so sure about the line. There might have been something else I'm missing. The one I did was fine as long as I was dealing that 3. Last game, I traded into the 4-12. I was like it was kind of bad, but thinking more, it's actually a good play because my minions were getting buffed from the Leok, and they were getting buffed only this specific turn.
Yeah.
And hounds were being traded by the 1/3, so I think that was fine. And game number 2, something else triggered me. I kind of forgot.
Well, I guess that leads me on to my question about Hunter in general for you. I remember you said in the last time we interviewed you that you took this list from Bunny Hopper, obviously, who you have a huge amount of respect for as a player. Now that you've played it a little bit in Grandmasters, is there anything that you would change about this list that you've now that you've had a chance to play with it a little bit, or is it the best way to build Hunter?
The sample size is very small. Like, you have to play a lot of ladder games to really decide what's the best list, and I can't really decide it after having a couple matches in the league.
How many ladder games for you does it take before you feel fairly certain about a deck in general?
I never do.
Never good enough.
I don't know, like 100 maybe would be okay.
So it's a very Kolento thing to never be satisfied quite with the decisions you can make in that one. Kolento, congratulations on your win, and I look forward to seeing you play next week.
Thank you.
Never good enough. Always more.
It feels like a theme is to be just enough unsure that you can bring it into the limelight.
I think it's mostly for Kolento there, the fact that he does have respect for, I don't even want to say his shortcomings, but just respect for other players in Grandmasters, where he realizes, if people are saying that Beast Hunter is really good, especially players of the caliber like Bunny Hopper, they must be onto something. They're winning a lot of games, and after playing it, I assume, on ladder a bit, and figuring out what he likes about the deck, I think it was a really good bring for him here, as he is looking very strong with this Beast Hunter indeed.
Yeah, indeed. I think it's looking pretty fantastic. I think the first iteration of it without Scavenging Hyena didn't look very good, and now it's looking pretty darn strong in Europe, at least.